Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Leniel Writes. How did I get here? In this episode, I'll take you on a heartfelt journey through love found and love lost. Each story in this series brings me closer to understanding how I became who I am today. Every detail I share comes straight from the heart, no embellishments, no exaggerations. Are you ready to step into my world and explore the stories that shape Leniel Writes? If so, buckle up. It's time to dive in. The word love is fascinating to me. It's a concept that can feel both universal and deeply personal. Yet, for me, love was complicated and didn't come easily. I grew up in a household where love wasn't expressed in the ways many families practice it. Take this for example. As a child, I didn't know any better. One night, we had guests over, and I was playing around when I decided to stick a fork into an electrical outlet. The entire apartment complex lost power. My dad punished me severely for that. Was it out of love? Perhaps he thought so. But other parents might have approached that situation very differently. Here's another memory. One day, I grabbed a pair of scissors and decided to cut my own hair. My mom was furious and in complete shock. Her solution? She grabbed a strainer bowl and gave me the infamous bowl cut. To make matters worse, it was the day before school picture day. I still have that photo, and let's just say I was not a happy camper. You see, my dad believed physical punishment, which we consider child abuse today, was a way to teach us obedience, his version of tough love. My mom, on the other hand, showed her love through forgiveness. She would provide a solution to the problem and calmly tell me not to repeat my mistakes. Both approaches were their forms of love, even if they felt worlds apart. Here's a confession. Growing up, I never once kissed my mom on the cheek to show her love or affection. It's something I do now because I understand the value of love and how much she sacrificed to give us a better life. But as a child, I never expressed love in that way. This became a challenge for me. I often talk about how Jesus saved my life through his sacrifice on the cross so that I could live. You know the famous Bible verse, John 3:16, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life." Depending on the translation, the word love appears in the Bible anywhere from 310 to 645 times. I've always asked myself some tough questions, even before I met my wife. How can I learn to love others if I was never shown what love truly is? How can I exercise love when I was never taught its meaning? These were deep, persistent questions that lingered in my mind, especially during the years I was single. Most of my life, in fact. My brother even joked once that if I didn't pick up the pace, I'd end up as the 40-year-old virgin. It wasn't like I didn't try. I was a musician, I loved Jesus, and I wasn't exactly unattractive. So what was missing? Depending on who you ask, some might say it was because I didn't have a steady career or income, which made me seem less desirable. Others might say I was too shy or not open enough to receive love, which was also seen as unattractive. At one point, I decided to try a local dating program. Think something like the movie Hitch. It was run by a love doctor who would set people up on dates in hopes of finding a perfect match. I won't name the program, but it involved filling out a massive questionnaire that became my profile. When a potential match came up, they'd call me to set up a date. Most of those dates didn't lead anywhere. We'd call it off after the first meeting. There was only one time I made it to the second date, but even that fizzled out. I invested a lot of time and money into that dating program, but eventually I gave up. Afterward, I signed up for dating apps like OkCupid, eHarmony, Match.com, and Tinder. I even tried being more social, going out and asking women out in person. None of it worked. I think I went on a couple of dates through eHarmony, but nothing ever went past the first date. At some point, I deleted all my dating apps, except for Tinder. In 2018, I traveled to Mexico for the first time in my life. I celebrated my birthday in Cabo San Lucas, and later rang in the new year in Cancun. While there, I got back on Tinder and started swiping. It wasn't until I returned home after New Year's that I got a ping. Her profile caught my attention immediately. She was beautiful, absolutely stunning. I went back to her profile, did some extra research, and the messaging began. Next thing I knew, we were staying up late texting, calling each other. We must have been communicating at least 4 to 5 times a week. For some people, that might have seemed like overkill, but for us, it felt natural. Still, I couldn't shake my doubts. Something inside me wanted to call it all off. I was skeptical about the whole situation and my walls went up. I felt the need to guard my heart. Maybe one day I'll invite my wife to join me on an episode to share her side of the story, but back then, I wasn't sure this was going anywhere. In fact, I tried to break things off after a couple of weeks of texting and calling. For 4 days, we had no communication. Then out of the blue, she sent me a music video of Adele singing one of her songs. I wish I could remember which one, but I couldn't find it when I looked back through my messages. That gesture, simple as it was, changed everything for me. She was the real deal. Towards the end of January 2019, I bought a plane ticket to visit her in February, just after Valentine's Day. I booked a hotel near her house and planned a short weekend trip, one that turned out to be unforgettable. Everything about it felt surreal. Traveling to meet a woman I had only talked to online in a city I had never visited before. I'd been to unfamiliar places and even lived abroad, but this experience felt entirely different. I made sure to share every detail of my trip with my family, where I'd be staying, my flight numbers, and the city I'd be visiting. You can never be too cautious. On her end, she was just as nervous about meeting me. She did the exact same thing, sharing her live location and giving status updates to ensure her safety. When I landed early in the morning after a long overnight flight, she met me in the airport lobby. Wow, I couldn't believe my eyes. There she was, in person, and she looked exactly like her profile photos. I was instantly smitten. We were both nervous. You could see it in the photos we took that weekend, but it was also magical. We spent the weekend sightseeing, enjoying amazing food, and even meeting her family. Before I knew it, the weekend was over, and I had to fly back home. The next move was hers. I could dive into every detail, but let's keep this short and sweet. We dated, got married, and started our life together, all in 1 year. It was a courthouse wedding. Before I knew it, we were buying a house, adopting fur babies, and building a life together. Love is a funny thing. Even now, I'm still learning what it truly means to love someone. Love isn't just about verbal expressions or physical touches, it's everything. Love is every part of you, poured out in a way that touches everyone around you. My wife may not fully realize this yet, though she's getting close, but my love language is practically all 5 rolled into one. In Gary Chapman's book, The 5 Love Languages, he identifies 5 ways people express and receive love: acts of service, quality time, receiving gifts, physical touch, and words of affirmation. Let me explain how these play a role in my marriage. Acts of service. Every weekend, I bring my wife coffee in bed. During the work week, I make her coffee at 6 a.m. before she leaves for work. I fold her laundry, walk the dogs, cook, clean, and move mountains for her. When she's sick, I'm her nurse. These acts are my way of saying, I love you. Quality time. When we're home together, I sit with her and offer comfort. When we go out to enjoy the outdoors, we do it as a team. Even when there's nothing planned, I simply show up for her. Being present together is what matters most. Receiving gifts. When I had a well-paying job, I loved surprising her with gifts. Not just for anniversaries or birthdays, but on random days to show I was thinking of her. While I'm not big on receiving gifts myself, I find joy in giving them to her. Physical touch. This is an area I'm still working on. I'm not naturally a touchy person, but I'm learning. 6 years of marriage have helped me grow in this area. It's no small thing for someone who, as I shared earlier, didn't even kiss his mom on the cheek growing up. And the last one, words of affirmation. This one took some practice, but I've gotten the hang of it. It's more than just saying, I love you. Affirmations are positive words that help someone navigate negative feelings, thoughts, or situations. When my wife expresses doubt or frustration, I try to respond with something uplifting to shift her perspective. Discovering love has been one of the most transformative parts of my life's journey, filled with its fair share of challenges. Love is meant to be shared, and when we share it with others, we often see our own lives change in incredible ways. Love is the reason I'm here today. Thank you for tuning into my podcast. A quick note, this podcast takes time, effort, and heart to script, record, and edit. If you've enjoyed what you've heard and feel inspired, your donation of any amount would truly mean the world to me. Help keep Leniel Writes going strong. Thank you for your support, and don't forget to come back for more.